grievance is an example of using thought in a wrong sort of a way. The ego thought says, I am a body, I am this limited individual that's limited in time, that's limited in space. It's completely wrong thinking. Can the physical body live without love energy? And the answer is no, it can't.
And James, it's often easier for people to uh, give love to others. That's what they think, it's easy to love somebody else than their own self. When it comes to their own self, they carry a lot of judgments, resentment, and grief within them, and they think that sacrificing is loving others, and they really don't think of loving themselves. So I think everything starts with self love. So, what do you say about that?
Yes, I totally agree. And this is another area where I think many people may struggle, and that they do believe that, love is giving to others and being there for others. And, in all of this that they want to do, they forget to look at their own self. And it's so important to look at your own self and to be content with who you are and to be accepting of who you are and to remember that what you are is shared with everyone. And so when you look at another, you remember that there's at the very base essence level of who you are, there is no difference, absolutely no difference. Okay. There's differences in appearance, of course, but who we are is a shared identity. And so we want to remember that our own self, as we see it, is just as important. It's equally as important as other selves. And so one of the blocks to love is judgment. When we judge, it's typically negative, but even if it's a positive judgment, it's not great because it implies that there could be a negative judgment. And so judgment is best to be put aside and never used because what happens when we make a judgment, and we can judge ourselves too, and that's primarily now what I'm going to talk about because of your question. Um, we can have expectations of ourselves, and you can think of many like, oh, I'm a student, and so I need to get an A in this class. And if I don't get an A, well, I'm not going to think too kindly of myself, right? If I don't get that top level grade, I'm going to be very unhappy with myself, and I'm probably going to do some things that aren't very loving towards myself because I'm holding a judgment. Now, what's the judgment do? It puts it establishes a grievance, right? It establishes this grievance that says, I now have a problem because I don't accept what is. I don't accept myself. I am projecting some part of myself out, you know. I have failed because I didn't pass this class, or I didn't get an A in this class, or I got fired from my job and now I feel like I'm worthless and my wife's upset. And, so there's lots and lots of ways to judge ourselves, and it's all wrong. Okay. It's all absolutely wrong. You just want to remember that. Anytime we judge ourselves, it's wrong. Uh, but when we do, we have a grievance. And the grievance is an example of using thought in a wrong sort of a way. So people will say, well, what's mind for anyway? Why do we have a mind? Why do we think? Well, the mind is there because it's a mechanism by which spirit expresses itself. Okay. That is the function of mind. That is why mind exists. Mind exists so spirit can express. We also have a physical body. The physical body exists so that we can have a physical experience. And that's the whole reason for it. Now, you can misidentify what you are, and you can mistake think yourself as a body, you can say, oh, well, there's this body here. I must be that. All right. I am that body, right? That's a mistake. That's a mistake that many people make. And that's called the ego thought. The ego thought says, I am a body. I am this limited individual that's limited in time, that's limited in space. It's completely wrong thinking. And the wrong thinking is what gets us our problems that come up. What we are in fact is spirit. We are the one being of the universe, united in spirit. That's what we are. And this spirit cannot be contained by a body, but the spirit expresses itself through the body. But when we have the wrong thoughts, like I am a body or I'm holding a grievance, the result of that is that the flow of energy from spirit through mind and into body is blocked. The grievances block the flow of love energy. And so, can the physical body live without love energy? And the answer is no, it can't. You can feed the body, you can water it, you can clothe it, you can shelter it, but without love energy, the body will become sick and it will die because the love energy is the basis for the body to be alive in the first place. Another way to look at love is the energy that holds life and awareness together. Okay. So life and awareness are both aspects of spirit. Spirit is life. Spirit is awareness. What holds these two aspects together in the body is the love energy. The love energy holds them together. So, if the love energy is blocked and it flows from spirit through mind into body, if it's blocked, then the life and the awareness aren't held together tightly anymore. And the life energy can leave the body, or if it's diminished, the result is illness and sickness. Okay. And so, dropping the grievances is super important. And the way we do that is by forgiving. We just forgive ourselves for everything that we thought we did that was wrong. We thought, oh, it was wrong to, you know, do whatever. I didn't get that A in that class. I only got a B or a C. And so I was kind of hating on myself. That's that grievance that's now blocking the love energy. And now I could get actually sick from that. I could develop any kind of sickness from holding a grievance like that. But I gotta realize that I need to forgive myself. I need to accept myself for who I am, accept the present moment for exactly what it is. And in accepting myself, I'm expressing love towards myself. And that's why it's really important to forgive, forgiving oneself and forgiving others. So we can judge against others too. And it's always the wrong thought. It's always the wrong thought. So when we do it, it's really important to forgive. And we'll forgive ourselves for doing it, and we'll forgive the other for whatever. They didn't meet our expectations or we felt they did us wrong. We just need to forgive because forgiveness points us right back towards truth, and truth is love. Okay? So forgiveness is correct in the sense that it points us right back to where we need to go in order to regain our health and our peace and our joy. Because without forgiveness, we'll be trapped in not accepting who we are, and we'll be trapped in believing these wrong thoughts that we're holding. So, forgiveness is the pathway to truth. Forgiveness itself is not truth, but it's the pathway to truth. And that's why it's so important.